At 16, Amina was a delicate balance of strength and uncertainty, a girl caught between childhood and womanhood. Growing up in a small village, she had always felt the weight of her parents' expectations pressing down on her, like the heavy rain clouds that often gather over their home. Her mother, Fatima, was a woman of strong conviction, believing that a girl's place was within the home, learning the ways of cooking, cleaning, and eventually raising a family of her own. Her father, Malik, was a stern man, silent in his discipline, who believed that a daughter's duty was to marry and bring honor to the family. Amina had spent most of her life under their watchful eyes, her dreams and desires quietly smoothed by the life that had always been laid out for her. She longed for something more: freedom, independence, a chance to discover who she was beyond the walls of her parents' home. But in her village, a girl's worth was often tied to her family, and the only path to freedom was through marriage. For as long as she could remember, Amina had felt like a guest in her own life, following the rules of a game she hadn't chosen to play. She loved her parents, but their house, once a place of comfort, had become a cage. Every corner of it reminded her of the future they had planned for her, a future she was not ready to embrace. Her unrest grew, each day more suffocating than the last, until she could no longer bear it. The thought of staying under her parents' roof, living a life that wasn't her own, filled her with dread. The pressure to conform, to be the dutiful daughter, was overwhelming. She knew she had to leave, but in her village, the only way a girl could leave her parents' house was to marry. And so, Amina made a decision that both terrified and excited her. She would marry, not because she was in love, but because it was the only way out. Marriage in her world was the ticket to a new life, a chance to escape the suffocating experience of her parents. There was a young man in the village, Yusuf, who had shown interest in her. He was kind and gentle, with a smile that seemed to promise her the freedom she craved. Amina did not love Yusuf, but she saw in him a way out, a door to a life where she could begin to make her own choices. When Yusuf came to her parents to ask for her hand, Amina watched as her mother smiled, as her father nodded in approval. They believed they were securing her future, ensuring her happiness. But Amina knew that this was just the beginning of another journey, one that she would have to navigate on her own terms. The wedding was a small affair, attended by close family and friends. Amina stood next to Yusuf, dressed in a beautiful gown, her heart pounding in her chest as she exchanged vows. She felt a strange mix of fear and hope. She was stepping into the unknown, leaving behind the only life she had ever known. But she was also stepping into her own life, one where she would have the chance to redefine who she was. After the ceremony, as she walked out of her parents' house for the last time, Amina looked back at the place that she had been for 16 years. She felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of relief. She knew that she was leaving behind the expectations and constraints that had held her back, and she was ready to face whatever came next. As she walked beside Yusuf, Amina realized that marriage was not the end of her journey, but the beginning. She was scared but also determined. She knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but she was ready to take it, to find her own way in the world. And so Amina stepped into her new life, not as the girl she had been, but as the woman she was becoming. Amina's heart was a mix of hope and uncertainty as she entered Yusuf's house, her new home. The walls, painted in dull, faded colors, felt cool and unwelcoming. The small dark rooms were a stark contrast to the open spaces she had grown up in, but Amina tried to push aside her discomfort. She reminded herself that this was the freedom she had longed for, the escape from the life that suffocated her. But as the days turned into weeks, Amina realized that she had traded one prison for another. Yusuf was not the gentle, kind man she had imagined him to be. Behind the smile that had once given her hope was a coldness she hadn't anticipated. He was distant, his affection as fleeting as the promises he had made before they married. The first time he raised his voice at her, Amina felt a chill run down her spine. It was over something trivial, a meal that wasn't to his liking. The sharpness in his tone cut through her, leaving her stunned and silent. She tried to reason with herself, to believe that it was just a bad day, that things would get better. But they didn't. Yusuf's temper flared more frequently, his words laced with bitterness and anger. He began to criticize everything about her, her cooking, the way she kept the house, even the way she spoke. Nothing she did was ever good enough. Amina, who had once dreamt of freedom, now found herself walking on eggshells, afraid to say or do anything that might provoke his wrath. One evening, after a particular harsh scolding, Amina retreated to the small bedroom they shared, her heart heavy with fear and regret. The reality of her situation was sinking in, and it was far worse than she had ever imagined. The man she had married in her desperation to escape was a stranger, and a cruel one at that. As the days passed, Yusuf's behavior grew more controlling. He started dictating who Amina could talk to, where she could go, and how she should spend her time. Her world she had hoped would expand after marriage was shrinking, becoming even more confined than it had been under her parents' roof. Amina's spirit, once so full of hope and determination, began to wither. She missed the familiar safety of her parents' home, even the oppressive expectation that had driven her away. But she knew she couldn't go back. To return would be to admit defeat, to confirm that she had made the wrong choice, and so she kept silent, enduring Yusuf's harsh treatment with a style she didn't know she possessed. But inside, Amina was a storm of emotions. Fear, anger and regret shone within her, mixing with a deep sense of betrayal. This was not the life she had imagined. This was not the freedom she had longed for. Every day she felt herself slipping further away from the girl she used to be, the girl who had dreamed of a better life. Yet, despite the darkness that surrounded her, a small member of burnt with Amina. She had escaped once before, left behind a life her parents had planned for her, and she knew that she could not simply accept this new prison without a fight. But how? How could she escape when she had nowhere to go, no one to turn to? The questions haunted her, gunning at the edge of her thought as she lay awake at night, listening to the sound of Yusuf's breathing in beside her. The walls of the small house seemed to close in on her, the silence heavy with the weight of her despair. Amina knew she was running out of time. If she didn't act soon, she would lose herself completely, becoming nothing more than a shadow of the girl she once was. She became too watchful of Yusuf more closely, looking for any sign of weakness, any opportunity to take back control of her life. She was cautioned, careful not to let him see the resolve hardening within her. Amina had made one desperate choice to escape her parents' house. Now she would have to make another to escape the man who was slowly destroying her. But this time, she will be smarter. This time, she will not rely on anyone but herself. Amina knew the risks, the dangers that lay ahead, but also she knew that she could not continue living in fear. She couldn't continue to let Yusuf dictate the course of her life. The tension in the house grew thicker with each passing day, the air crackling with unspoken words and unresolved conflict. Amina could feel the storm brewing, could sense that something was about to break. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to fight for it, ready to reclaim the freedom she had so desperately sought for. As she stood by the window, one evening, staring out at the darkening sky, Amina made a silent vow to herself. She would find a way out of this nightmare, no matter the cost. She had come too far, endured too much to give up now. And so, with her heart pounding in her chest, Amina began to plan her next move. Her mind racing with possibilities, her determination growing stronger with each passing moment. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with anger, dangers and risks, but it was a path she would walk along, guided by the fierce, unyielding hope that she could still find the freedom she so desperately craved for. Amina's resolve hardened with each passing day, and she knew that to escape Yusuf's control, she needed a way to support herself. She had heard of a small bakery in the village, run by a kind woman named Mama Nkechi. She was known for her generosity and warmth. Amina decided to approach her, hoping that she could find work and a sense of purpose there. One afternoon, when Yusuf was away, Amina made her way to the bakery. The sweet scent of freshly baked bread and pastry filled the air as she approached the small bustling shop. Nervous but determined, Amina entered, her heart pounding in her chest. Mama Nkechi was behind the counter, her hands shaved dough. She looked at Amina's eyes, her eyes softened with a welcoming smile. "Hello, my dear," she greeted warmly. "How can I help you today?" Amina hesitated for a moment before getting the courage to speak. "Mama Nkechi, I'm looking for work. I need a job and I've heard you're the best baker in town." Mama Nkechi chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling. "Flattering will get you far, young one, but tell me, what do you want to work here?" Amina took a deep breath and explained her situation, careful not to reveal too much, but enough for Mama Nkechi to understand that she needed this job not just for money, but for freedom. Mama Nkechi listened attentively, her expression growing serious. When Amina finished, there was a brief silence before Mama Nkechi spoke again, her voice gentle yet firm. "You are a brave girl, Amina. Many will have stayed silent, but you have chosen to fight for your future. I admire you. If you're willing to work hard and learn, you can start tomorrow." Amina felt a wave of relief wash over her. She thanked Mama Nkechi previously, her heart lighter than it had been in months. That night, she returned to Yusuf's house with a small pack of hope, knowing that she had taken the first step towards reclaiming her life. The next morning, Amina began working at the bakery. It was exhausted, but it filled her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. Mama Nkechi was patient and kind, teaching her the art of baking with a gentle hand. The older women became a mentor, offering not just skills, but also wisdom and encouragement. She treated Amina with respect, something Amina had forgotten. As weeks turned into months, Amina began to save the little money she earned, tucked it away for the day when she could leave Yusuf for good. She grew stronger both physically and emotionally. Under Mama Nkechi's guidance, the bakery became her sanctuary, a place where she could breathe freely and rediscover the girl she once was. One evening, as they were closing up the shop, Mama Nkechi pulled Amina aside. "You have a bright future ahead of you, Amina," she said, her eyes serious. "But you must remember, true freedom comes not just from leaving a bad situation, but from knowing your worth and standing up for it. You deserve to be treated with love and respect, no matter where you are or who you are with." Amina nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. Mama Nkechi's words resonated deeply within her, echoing the thoughts she had been grasping for so long. She knew now that she could not escape. She had to demand more for herself, to refuse to settle for anything less than she deserved. A few weeks later, Amina gathered her courage and told Yusuf she was leaving. He reacted with anger as she expected, but Amina stood firm. The fear that had once paralyzed her was gone, replaced by a quiet strength. She knew she had the support of Mama Nkechi, and more importantly, she had learned to believe in herself. Amina left that house for the last time with only a small bag of belongings and the savings she had accumulated, but she felt lighter than ever in years. She walked to the bakery where Mama Nkechi was waiting for her with open arms. From that day forward, Amina worked hard, eventually saving enough to rent a small room for her own. As the years passed, Amina's life transformed. She became an accomplished baker, known for her delicious bread and pastries, and a respected member of the community. She never remarried, choosing instead to focus on her work and her newfound independence. Her life was not easy, but it was her own that made all the difference. The moral lesson of Amina's story is that true freedom and happiness comes not from running away from difficult circumstances, but from recognizing your worth and taking control of your life. It's not enough to simply escape. You must also stand up for yourself and demand the respect and dignity that every person deserves. Amina learned that it is through courage, hard work, and self-respect that one can build a life of true independence and fulfillment. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this story, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more interesting African tales, and do not forget to turn on the notification bell. Thank you.